my name is Jennifer Bentley, and I am here with the SnapLogic team to showcase our integration solution for the higher education community. Thanks to NAIRCom for including us in this very important webinar. I'm joined today by Matt Sager, our Senior Solutions Architect, and by Sri Kadambi, our Senior Customer Success Manager. As you can see from this first slide, we are extremely excited to be part of the higher education community in the Northeast with wonderful relationships with many of the local universities and colleges. Today, we plan to spend time with you to discuss SnapLogic in an overview setting, give you a little bit of information about the company, and then we're going to move quickly into a platform demonstration. We'll discuss features and capabilities, build out pipelines, and show you a very important higher ed use case, Banner to Target X endpoint. Last, we'll finish up with a common higher education use case, managing departmental costs. So let me begin by just giving you a SnapLogic at a glance. We are a company located in San Mateo, California, and we specialize in self-service, ease of use, integration platform as a service. What iPaaS is in the industry today is the connective glue for many enterprises, universities, and colleges. We connect applications, we connect data, IoT, and present all of this within a user-friendly environment. We are proud to say that we are connected with many enterprise customers that are using our platform to move trillions of documents, and we are also boastful on the number of snaps that we include in our library. You'll learn more about snaps later in the presentation, but snaps are our pre-built integrations and are part of the automation that allows SnapLogic to offer fast integration speeds and create tremendous return on investment for all of our customers. What does SnapLogic do? Well, we connect data and apps faster. We abstract away the need for developing code, and reliance on legacy data is removed. We are able to connect data, applications, APIs. We do this in a batch, real-time, or event-based mode, and we connect data and applications anywhere, on-prem, in the cloud, and in a fully hybrid environment. Our common higher ed integration use cases include seamless experience for faculty, students, and alumni, integration with customized higher ed applications like Banner, Slate, and Blackboard, big data integration, and integration of retirement or legacy apps and data. I'm going to hand it over to Matt Sager to show you a platform demonstration next.
Thanks, Jen. For this demonstration, I'm going to show you a brief overview of the platform, and then I'll show you how to actually build a common higher education use case, Banner to Target X. So let's take a look at a common data flow. This, what you're looking at, this pictographic, is what we call a pipeline. And pipelines can take many forms, but what the pipeline does is it moves data from one endpoint to another endpoint. Pipelines can look very different. For example, this pipeline here moves files, does all sorts of interesting things, and ultimately sends it off to PeopleSoft, S3, and SFTP. This pipeline, again, is very different. So is this one. It can be little or it could be very big. But a pipeline itself is made up of what we call snaps. And a snap, just to show you why we call them snaps, snaps together like that. So I can break these snaps up. Each one of these is a snap, and I can break them at any point in the chain, and piece them together with other snaps. We have about 550 some odd snaps that we ship. So the question is, what is a snap? A snap itself is a specialist. If I mouse over this first snap over here, you see that this one is called REST GET. So this snap knows how to work with RESTful endpoints and perform the get operation or the get method from that endpoint. We have all sorts of transformation snaps. Those are color-coded in blue. Think sort, aggregate, join, regular expression, and more to perform various transformation operations. And the color coding continues with routing snaps and formatting snaps and then writing to endpoints. What might be useful next is to show you a brief demonstration of how to build a pipeline, and I'll show you that in a live mode, real time. So we build a pipeline from snaps, and the snaps come from this catalog over here on the left-hand side where my mouse is. And if I briefly scroll through the snaps, you'll see a common sort of household names of capabilities and targets and endpoints that are used throughout industry and higher ed. So I'll see Active Directory, I'll see all of the main databases like SQL Server and Oracle and SAP. I'll see all of the SaaS endpoints like ServiceNow, and you'll see Workday, and you'll see Salesforce. You'll also see, as I mentioned earlier, common generic protocol-based operations like REST. So if I type in here REST, you'll see all of the REST operations. We have SOAPs, SoapSnap for SOAP web services, and plenty of file operations. The point I'm making here is that we can connect to any endpoint and then do anything to the data that is needed before we send it off to the next endpoint. So with that in mind, let's build out a simple integration. So I'm going to search for Oracle. Oracle is the underlying database in Banner, commonly used in higher ed. So I'm going to pull that Oracle snap into my canvas, and I'm going to start to configure it by clicking on the settings. First thing I want to do is I want to identify that this is actually Banner, and it's asking me for a schema name. Now, one of the things that sets us apart and that we do extremely well is we give you a lot of help along the way as you're building the integrations. By that I mean, let's pretend that I'm a new integrator in your organization, and I don't really know the Banner schema. I don't know exactly what table name. There's no documentation, and maybe the people who wrote it were retired. So how do I figure that out? I'm going to ask the snap itself to tell me. So I do that by clicking on this little icon over here, and it will expose to me all of the schema that I'm interested in. And yes, I remember now, it was the demo schema. Similarly with table names, I'm going to click on this little icon over here, and it will expose to me all of the tables. And in this example, this was the, had my initials in it, and it was, yeah, the Salesforce accounts, SFDC accounts. And that's it. That's all you need to do to configure. I'm now going to save, and I'm going to do what we call a validation by clicking on this icon that looks like a gear. And what validation does, think of validation as a debugger. It will give me a sample set of what does the data look like so far. So this immediate feedback, again, carries through to everything that you do in SnapLogic. And if you notice that the shape of this little output circle has changed, and I'm going to click on it, and it will give me a tabular view of the data or a JSON view to answer the question, am I pulling the right data, or does this transformation look correct so far? So if I click on the JSON view, you'll see all of the data in JSON. Why is JSON important? We are a REST-based stateless streaming engine, and we're schemaless. We use JSON to represent the data. As a simple example, imagine a column gets dropped or deleted from a table, or someone adds a column to the table. Because we're schemaless, JSON itself is very malleable. We can just represent the data that's coming in doing what's called schema on read. So we're just reading what we get, and nothing is going to break. In other words, there's no outside mappings that you have to maintain if things change. So I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit and build out the rest of this pipeline by pulling in a mapper, And I'm going to pull in my target X endpoint, which is the underpinning is Salesforce. And I'll configure that so we know that it's target X. And I'm going to save that. And if I validate this again, I'm going to open up the mapper. And you'll start to see the map here populated with the input schema from Banner and the target schema from target X. And so my job now is really simple, is to just do some basic mappings, pulling in, dragging and dropping. I can go city, goes to billing city, and so on. Phone goes to phone. I don't see phone over here, so I can search for it. And finally, there's one in here that's a date type, last updated from Oracle, which again is Banner. And I'm going to create that on the fly. This is a timestamp. So it means I need to generate it. And to do that, I'm going to use one of our many JavaScript functions. You'll see all of the JavaScript functions here, array functions, string functions, numbered. There's the date functions, math, object. They're all in here. And the one I want is date.now. And if I validate this one last time, and call your attention to the output preview data pane on the right side, we can see all of my mappings, account number, billing city, phone, and the last updated from Oracle, which has been dynamically generated to pull in a timestamp. And if I close this, you'll see behind the scenes, everything is green, which means in my test environment, this is all ready to go. It's been validated, there are no problems or errors, and this is ready to be promoted. So with that, I'm going to hand over the rest of the presentation to a common education use case that we see. And I'll turn that over to Shri.
Thank you, Matt. Let's talk about one of the key challenges faced by higher ed IT. IT in higher ed spend high dollars for software subscriptions. Now, the utilization, though, is across various different departments. Measuring the usage or utilization by individual department is almost impossible whilst using shared resources. There's also some kind of a discomfort that may arise owing to the flat breakdown in pricing across different departments. And of course, if we cannot automate this one, it can turn out to be a laborious manual process, resulting in higher IT man hours. Now, the SnapLogic solution for chargeback is what we're going to be discussing now. Asset organization in SnapLogic, when I say assets, right, we're talking about your pipelines, which are synonymous to the integrations like how Matt was mentioning earlier. Now, we have a specific kind of a folder structure. There are project spaces which contain projects, and assets are assembled within projects. Now, each project space in SnapLogic may denote a different business need. Individual projects within may denote specific subdepartments or use cases or functionality. Now, what does this chargeback solution provide? It provides appropriate breakdowns of usage by project spaces. In other words, each project space can be representative of a department, so can provide breakdowns by departments. It helps us drill down the usage of an org. An organization or an org in SnapLogic is synonymous with the word environment. It'll also help us determine project space-wise metrics. One of the key things that we are going to be able to achieve here is, of course, the breakdown. But it also, on the other hand, helps IT departments identify the mission critical units by measuring their utilization of SnapLogic. Let's say, for example, an organization, or an environment in SnapLogic has about 5 different departments. From the SnapLogic user interface, you will be able to observe the total utilization, meaning how many documents were processed. Each document refers to a JSON document. It could be representative of a row of data, hierarchical or otherwise. Now, it's going to provide you with with the clear information surrounding the total number of documents processed and the number of pipeline executions, number of integrations that have executed, and the total number of quantum of time that have elapsed for executions. Unfortunately, there is no direct breakdown that's available on our user interface. Like one department A did this, department B did this, and so on. Now, what's the objective behind this use case, this common use case across the higher ed IT that we observe? This use case and the solution empowers IT with information on SnapLogic utilization by individual business units and perform chargebacks as may be necessary. Now, on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see that this is what we can see from the user interface. The total number of documents processed, total pipelines executed, total elapsed time for executions. Let's say there are 3 different departments, which is pictorially represented here. What the solution will provide is a clear breakdown by departments. What are the assumptions? This solution assumes that each project space in a selected org or environment within SnapLogic is representative of a business unit or department. Now, the SnapLogic pipeline monitoring API provides precise details, and that's why I say it's a very powerful API. And these are precise details surrounding the number of pipeline executions, number of documents processed by executions, and the duration. And the duration is essentially the time elapsed for every execution. It can be considered to be closest to the time it actually makes use of all of the underlying resources. Now, the pipeline itself, like Matt had demonstrated earlier, each pipeline is going to look different. What we're doing here in this pipeline is make use of the SnapLogic REST get snap, which is a pre-built connector for us to be able to connect to REST endpoints. And it actually makes a call to one of our powerful public APIs to pull the information surrounding pipeline executions. Pipelines, as I want to kind of reiterate here, pipelines are synonymous to integrations. And I do quite a bit of massaging here, and based on some aggregations and other operations that I perform, I finally get a report, which I'm writing it out to a CSV file. I'm going to show you in the next slide how that report is going to look like. For a selected org in SnapLogic, the metrics can be found for any defined time range. So typically, organizations would actually run this pipeline once every month. So that way they can actually pull out monthly utilization across their different departments. So as I mentioned earlier, it throws out information around the total number of documents processed, the total pipelines executed, and the percentage of total elapsed time, which is closest to the CPU time for all the execution. Now, using all of the info that has been made available, which essentially are the clear attributes surrounding usage by different departments, IT can apply an empirical formula to arrive at the breakdown of utilization. In other words, empowered with this information, IT can clearly identify usage distribution by departments, thereby making it easier for them to apply chargebacks accordingly and as may be necessary. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Jen.
Thanks very much, Sri. You just demonstrated a use case that is very important to many of our higher education customers. In addition to managing departmental costs, many of our college and university customers come to us to help streamline their student information, to connect applications to drive student engagement, and to connect alumni data to boost funding. Overall, the SnapLogic experience has provided tremendous benefits for colleges, universities, and our enterprise customers as well. Specifically, we have allowed customers to see a 10 times faster integration capability, and we have also seen the ability for customers to utilize the largest library of snaps, as well as create pipelines and integrations with a tremendous speed, and creating an environment where many lines of businesses can adapt and deploy the platform and create integration solutions, college and university-wide. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope that we are able to connect with any of you if you have questions. Have a great afternoon.